to say that she is unqualified to be Secretary of State, I think, is a mistake. And the way it keeps going, it's almost as if the intent is to assassinate her character.
Her intent to assassinate, or their intent to assassinate her character. Really? President Obama and other top Dems are coming to the defense of Ambassador Susan Rice. Was it another clue that she's to be named Hillary Clinton's replacement as Secretary of State? Fox News national security analyst KT McFarland joins me, my good friend. All right, KT, you were in the White House when there were individuals briefed, and you were in the room preparing them to go on national television to talk security issues.
Absolutely.
All right, when someone goes on national television to talk security issues, do they ask any questions, or do they just go out with their talking points?
Look, she was given talking points, and she went out and delivered talking points. Why? Because she took that as a tryout to be Secretary of State. The buzz had been that she was going to be Hillary's replacement. There were other people being considered for the job, but she went out and she delivered the message she was given. Now, I checked to see why was that not the Secretary of State or Defense or CIA or NSC advisor or White House counterterrorism czar. They were all in Washington that day. They could have gone on the 5 shows. My guess is they wouldn't touch it because they didn't think it was the right thing to say. So she was the loyal soldier. She did her tryout to be Secretary of State, and I think having given those talking points, which later turned out to be a complete fairy tale,
but you know what?
She's disqualified.
You know what, KT? It's not just a fairy tale in terms of they took out all reference to Al-Qaeda, Ansar al-Sharia, and all that, but to come up with this spontaneous protest in the video, and she did it over and over again. Now, let me ask you this, KT. There's going to be a fight.
Absolutely.
If they try to get her. And I think we've got a side here from Senator Graham, who's talking about whether or not he's going to support her. Do we have that, guys? It's coming.
This is about the role she played around 4 dead Americans when it seems to be that the story coming out of the administration, and she's the point person, is so disconnected to reality. I don't trust her. And the reason I don't trust her is because I think she knew better, and if she didn't know better, she shouldn't be the voice of America. I am dead set on making sure we don't promote anybody that was an essential player in the Benghazi debacle.
Okay, KT. All right, there's going to be a war on this kind of thing.
Well, I don't think the president's going to appoint her. I think there are a couple of things. One, she's now disqualified, but they can't jettison her.
Did you see how the president came out?
Of course he did, but you know why? Because if he says, well, we're not going to defend her, if he didn't defend her, then, she could tell everybody who wrote those talking points, who gave her that information. I think he's got to look like he's going to appoint her. At the very end of the day, he won't. Why? Because if a Senate confirmation hearings, that would be like a Watergate hearing. They would have that whole Benghazi thing raked over under oath. Who told you what? It was just exactly what they're trying to avoid, which is a congressional inquiry on Benghazi. So I think what will happen is they'll talk about her. At the Pentagon, there's an expression, you fly it up the flagpole to see if anybody salutes. In this case, nobody's going to salute. And so I think that they'll give her some other job that doesn't require Senate confirmation.
And what about these talking points? I mean, if she had access to both classified and unclassified information, so she could have known what Petraeus said in the first CIA report.
My guess is what happened. I mean, when I was in the White House, the way we would do things like this, an intelligence briefing would have come from the CIA. It would have been a part of a package. So it would have been tab C was the CIA briefing. Tab A would have been, here's what we want you to say. Here's some Q&As that you're going to use. And so the question is, who rewrote what the CIA said? And I think the only people who are in a position to do that, given my long experience in the White House and at the Pentagon, is somebody on the National Security Council or higher.
All right. Do you think that they'll be able to call them in any of these hearings? Or, again, they're not agreeing to a select...
Senate Select Committee. Everybody claims executive privilege in a case like that. If they're subpoenaed and then they have to testify like they did during Watergate, Iran-Contra.
How about Fast and Furious? I mean, that took so long that at the end nobody cared.
And then nobody cared and nobody showed up. This case is a little bit different. Why? Because it's a sex scandal now.
Oh, and that's part of the problem,
that's the tragedy of it.
It takes the focus off of the 4 dead Americans into the more titillating who did what to whom and when.
But the fact of the matter is that's human nature. We're all paying attention now because of it.
The
tragedy is 4 Americans died. At the end of the day, we will find out.
Well, hopefully we'll find out before too long. KT, it's always good to have you here in studio.